law of the 48 laws of power. So much depends on your reputation. Guard it with your life. Robert Greene defines reputation as the cornerstone of power. The textbook definition of reputation is the belief or the opinion of a person or something. If you want to hurt or finish somebody off, wow, that sounds terrible. If you want to hurt or finish somebody, the best way to do it is by targeting their reputation, because the second there is a tiny kink, a tiny hole in the armor, society is going to creep right in and destroy that person from the inside out. Think of, for example, SEAL Team 6, SWAT, Kobe, Mike Tyson even. If you hear that any of these people are coming your way or are coming after you, or for that matter, if anybody hears that one of these things above many others are targeting them, it instantly instills fear into the minds of them and others because of the reputation that these people have built over time. By reputation alone, you can win. Therefore, you must guard it with your life, because if there is a tiny hole in your armor of reputation, all hell will break loose and all evil will seep inside and tear you up from the inside out. What Barnum did in the beginning is perfect for anybody who really has nothing. But at the state that Barnum was at, he chose the smartest route, which was to humorously ridicule Peele. Who the fuck? Let's look at another observation of this law. There was an upcoming premier showman by the name of Barnum who wanted to expand his wares and his shows by just showing off all of his creations and all of his stage performances. He had the idea of buying a museum that was up for auction to do this exact plan. Now, what ended up occurring was that he had nothing. Barnum was a man who had no money besides a show and a pipe dream, but somehow he managed to convince the owners to sell to him with nothing but the promises of riches returned and great fortune. Now, the owners were about to sign off to Barnum until a man by the name of Peele had swooped in and paid for the museum in cash. Now, when the owners ended up seeing Barnum again, they simply explained to him that there's no hard feelings, this was just business, and that Peele had a more promising reputation than Barnum himself had. Now, Barnum was furious by this, and so he decided that he has to ruin the reputation of Peele. So he had the idea to start up a letter writing campaign, which is today's version of a blog. And all he was doing was talking the most shit he possibly could about the new ownership of this museum, about how nobody should buy from Peele, nobody should show him any support, how he was a fool, how nobody should buy his stock, his wares, or show up to any of his shows. And this letter writing campaign became popular. Now, the moment what Barnum was preaching, which was the downfall of the stock for the museum, the moment this had happened, Peele's reputation was tarnished. His museum and stock went down, and so did his reputation with it. Now, the owners, getting wind of this, redacted the signed agreement they had with Peele and have now signed ownership over to Barnum. Now, years later, Barnum has already established his reputation within being a premier showman, but Peele wasn't done. He wanted revenge. So he ended up, years later, coming up with a show of hypnotism. That was his main thing. But during his stage performances, he would mock or down-talk his rival or his competition, which was Barnum, saying how Peele's shows were more scientific than Barnum's were. Now, Barnum, catching wind of this, decided to go a more different and subtle route than his letter writing campaign before, because not in every single instance should you use your voice and act out by trying to hurt somebody with words or their reputation with words at the point that Barnum is at. Instead, he decided he would recreate this whole hypnotism stick in his own museum, and he played the same performance over and over and over again. Barnum would put a woman to sleep using hypnosis, and then he would sharpen a knife over her in front of the crowd to prove that she was really hypnotized. And every single time, the girl hearing the knife being sharpened opened her eyes, jumped up, and ran off of the stage. Every single time, Barnum kept repeating this same performance, always making a laugh about it with his own crowd, while indirectly putting hurt onto Peele's reputation. And now, because this hypnotism performance was basically disproven by Barnum, nobody came to Peele anymore, and his reputation never ended up recovering ever again. The moment doubt creeps into anybody's mind, it is almost impossible to get this tiny figuration of them out of your mind. You will always question, did they really do it? Are they really like this? Barnum instilled doubt into the owners for their decision that they made by signing over the museum to Peele. And the moment that this doubt came into fruition, it spouted to be true, they automatically resigned their deal with Peele. Whenever you are attempting to target somebody with slander, exactly like Barnum did the first time to ruin Peele's reputation, Barnum ended up doing first is perfect for anybody who really has nothing. But because Barnum was already at the state that he was at, he chose the route to humorously ridicule Peele's hypnosis performance, having a laugh with his own crowd while indirectly ruining Peele's reputation yet again. Doing something like this shows that you have a strong sense of your own worth, and you will never stoop down to somebody else's level just to outdo them. As I said earlier, it is glorified in this generation to not give a damn what anybody thinks about you, which, as I already agreed, it is true to some extent. What people say about you should not affect you or dictate your whole mood throughout life or throughout your day, because at the end of the day, you are confident within yourself, you know who you are, and in doing so, as I said, if people are saying things about you and you show any type of a waver or any type of a dip, people are going to think that this is true to some extent. And not only does that affect your reputation with others, it also affects you because you are living your life solely dependent on people's opinions of you. You know who you are, be confident in that true self of who you are, because nobody knows what is going on inside of you. Nobody knows your plans. Well, at least I would hope you listen to the last two breakdowns of Law 3 and 4, going into detail about why you have more power when you shut up and you keep that in a surprise. So by showing any type of doubt in yourself, by a drift in your confidence, you appear insecure to other people. And that, in fact, is what the issue is of ruining your self-image, or ruining your confidence, or ruining how people see you, because you waver and showed insecurity. And that is why people believe that there's something not right. Because of a reputation, if you choose to not really care about it, people may not look your way. If you ever need help, money, friends, because of your reputation and your carelessness of that reputation, nobody is going to lend out a hand to help you. Nobody is going to give you that extra $50 you need with the false promise of, oh, you're going to pay it back. Because by you not caring about your reputation and what people think of you, sometimes when you are backed into a corner, or when you are low and you need the help to uplift you or somebody to have your back, nobody is going to be there. This is something I've mentioned a lot, and I will keep on saying it continuously and again. Watch out for the people that you associate yourself with, because if you associate yourself with a person who already has a terrible reputation, even if you have the most stellar reputation yourself, your reputation is going to slowly tarnish and wilt away, because you are associating yourself with a person who is known for wrong or evil doing or mistrust. And by you associating yourself with this, I'm going to say, evil person, it brings your value down to their level, because who you choose to be with, it goes back to that old saying, birds with the same feathers flock together, or something like that. The statement is true. Who you associate yourself with and especially who people see you with, determines your outlook and determines the course of your own life. Friends and family even determine the course of your life by who you choose to entertain. They leech off of you like a parasite, and you aren't going to see it or notice it until one day it just happens. So if society gets a worldview of you with this person, they're going to rip you apart, because that, in doing so, creates a kink or a hole in your armor of reputation. Never ever go spouting about your world view anywhere, ever. As I covered in my last breakdown of Law 4, everybody has a different worldview on something. People see the world in a million different shades of gray, black, white, red, purple, pink. Nobody is ever going to fully agree with your public opinion, with your beliefs, even with your religion sometimes. So it is best to keep what you know, what you believe, what you love, your goals, your actions to yourself. But this isn't about that breakdown. If you want to hear more about that, you can go back to Law 4 of my breakdown in the 48 Laws of Power. Everything you want in life, the best things are the hardest things to get. If you manage to build up a reputation for yourself, it is also, as well as hard as it was to get it to that point, it is also going to be hard to maintain it, because if you want the best, you have to continuously work hard for it. God and life continuously puts you through tests to see if you are worthy of keeping everything you have. So if one day you just decide to stop, that's not going to work out well for you. Once you have a reputation built for yourself, you will constantly and continuously be under attack in that reputation, or just for anything else. Do not waver. Fight for it. Everything you have has been granted to you. It can also go away in a heartbeat just like that if you do not tend to it. Because showing that what is being said about you while you are under attack, showing that it has any wavering sign to you, creates insecurity. And doubt creates insecurity, especially when you decide to respond to somebody in a verbal argument. Now, the interpretation for this law is said right here in the 48 laws. Let me pull it up for you. The judgment. Reputation is the cornerstone of power, as I said, is what Robert Greene defines as that. Through reputation alone, you can intimidate and win. Once it slips, however, you are vulnerable and will be attacked on all sides. Make your reputation unassailable. Always be alert to potential attacks and thwart them before they happen. Meanwhile, learn to destroy your enemies by holding open holes in their own reputation. Then stand aside and let the public opinion hang them. Now, let me bring you to the first example, the first tale of seeing this exact law in action. The great General Chuko, who was in charge of the army for the Shu Kingdom, decided to go on a little retreat and took about 100 of his own warriors along with him on this retreat. Now, somehow, some way, wind of the general being vulnerable in a vulnerable position with few men protecting him got out to his own enemy. His name was Sima Yi. We're just gonna go by Sima because that's a lot more easier. The great General Chuko was a legend and one who always got his way. So when wind of this got out to Sima Yi, he took the opportunity and marched to this resort or wherever they had gone to retreat with 150,000 men, knowing that it was just the great general and 100 men with them. But because of the general's reputation, Sima felt as if every single man there was needed. Now when the general finds out that Sima is storming towards him with his own army, he simply tells his men to leave the camp completely vulnerable and hide, while the great general took the most vulnerable position in this camp resort and pretended as if he had every single thing under control and not a single thing was wrong. Lighting shades, chanting, incense. And so when Sima arrived to this village with his 150,000 men and saw the great general up in the most vulnerable position, looking so confident and as if everything was under control, knowing his reputation, automatically assumed that it was a trap, even though it wasn't. And if Sima had just stormed this camp, he would have taken out his biggest foe, the great General Chuko. But instead, he was instilled with fear and he hesitated under the impression that the great general had an ambush planned for Sima by taking the most vulnerable position, because what fool would do such a thing? In the end, Sima ended up retreating and going back home, and then the great General Chuko and all of his men survived that day. Now let's look at the interpretation of this law. Sometimes when you have nothing else, you have no weapons, the only weapon that you have in your reach is your reputation. I know a lot of you believe you have demons or you have evil inside of you that you have to get rid of and that you have to beat into submission, but everybody has a bit of dark inside of them. Instead of feeling ashamed by it and trying to hide it, you can use this to your advantage. The great general knew what people had thought of him, and he used it to his advantage to instill fear when he was most vulnerable. He was backed up against a wall, yet the only thing he had to defend and guard him was his reputation, and he used it to excellency. The great general crafted the reputation of being the most clever man in China. He crafted this reputation by just conquering kingdoms. One of his most famous stories is how he conquered 3 kingdoms all in once by using a spy sent to spy on the great general himself from another kingdom and catching him, and ends up forcing him to be a double agent to gather insider information on all 3 of these kingdoms, and in doing so he conquered all 3. He kept on conquering and evading and evading, eventually gaining and building the reputation of being the smartest man in China. Every single step he took was a strategic and tactical move to build this reputation for him. I know a lot of people think that you shouldn't give a damn about what anybody has to think about you or what anybody says about you. This is true to some extent, but the moment that you are backed into a corner, reputation for you is out the window. Society already sees you as you have already been portraying yourself. Therefore, you need to have a sort of self-control over yourself and show the public what you want them to see, what you want people to think of you, because sometimes your confidence can derive by knowing that people see you exactly how it is that you want them to see you. For there will always be a test and there will always be a challenge. Now, something I love to do is I read the image and the authority at the end of every single one of these laws. Let me pull that up for you now. The first part, which is the image. Imagine this: a mine full of diamonds and rubies. You dug for it, you found it, and your wealth is now assured. Guard it with your life. Robbers and thieves will appear from all sides. Never take your wealth for granted and constantly renew it. Time will diminish the jewel's luster and bury them from sight. This is a very this is a very straight to the point definition or overview of this law here, the authority for this law. Therefore, I should wish our courtier to bolster up his inheritant worth with skill and cunning, and ensure that whenever he has to go where he is a stranger, he is preceded by a good reputation. For the fame which appears to rest on the opinions of many fosters a certain unshakable belief in a man's worth, which is then easily strengthened in minds already thus disposed and prepared. This is by a man named Baldassar Cardicleone. Now, I know at the end of every law, I always tell you the reversal, but in this case and for some laws, there is no possible reversal to this law. I hope you guys took something from my breakdown of Law 5 of the 48 Laws of Power. I will continue to break down every single law in the 48 Laws of Power until I have completely finished it. So stay tuned for the next law that I will be breaking down. Law 6, always court attention, and this is also a very important law. So stay tuned for that. If you guys have any opinions, any comments, any recommendations, any business inquiries, comment down below, leave a like, and subscribe to keep on seeing each breakdown of this law right here. As always, I believe in you guys. These 48 laws, each of these laws are a pinnacle principle to reach the heights of power in life and will ride you and carry you through life toward your best self. I believe in you guys. Stay tuned, and I'll see you guys in the next one.